Good evening, everyone. This is another Sunday shout out. I thought it would be fun to use the TV as a way to look at Owen's site. So today I'm going to be shouting out Owen Edwards' channel. To a really amazing channel. And I'll explain why in a second. But first, just want to say that uh, doing it this way probably going to mean uploading on Mondays. It's just easier to do from the work computer. But I thought you would enjoy being able to see these playlists that he's got. There are going to be a certain number of these that have to do with role playing games, which is a sort of sideline, which I would argue is very interlaced with what he does with books here. But anyway, I won't talk too much about that side of it. However, he does say in one of his videos that's popping up in my, I think, either most popular or for you, that he reads mostly classics, by which he means classic fantasy, sci-fi, mainly fantasy. Um, Although you will see that he has done some classic literature in the other sets of classics as well, some of which I've watched, and they are also very good. One of the big surprises on YouTube for me has been how much the genre fiction um, channels are doing more analysis and especially textual stuff than the literary or so-called literary fiction people who get caught up in a lot more politics and other things. That's been a surprise to me. Not that I underestimate genres ever, but maybe I overestimated the literary folks. But anyway, so that's been fabulous. And I can definitely cite Owen as someone who's done that really well. Um, I'll just tell you the video that I'm going to recommend, which is his review of David Gemmell's Legend, in which he talks about virtue ethics. He quotes Priest as, I like to walk into my house justified. Um, yeah, he's very literary in both his analysis and even um, the expression of it. So, for example, he might talk about a work of art that has a ton, of backstory, and it's very rich in that way as being creaking under its own weight if it gets into some pacing stuff, things like that. Just really elegant expression. Whoops, there goes the TV. So anyway, let's go through this list serve, and there you can see it's Owen Edwards. Go back all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so he's got these created playlists. You can see he's got Shakespeare there right off the bat. So the ones I'm going to skip will be mainly RPG or role playing games when related to mainly Dungeons and Dragons. So that's one and that one and that one. They're about half of his content. Here you can see that he is a fan of the great books, so he is well read in other genres as well. I think that's a role play. He does read horror and westerns as well. This one is interesting. These lupine genomics. There's a video here I definitely want to check out about the literary role of memory in Gene Wolfe. I read about or watched about 3-4 hours worth of stuff today. I couldn't get to everything I wanted, and I've already watched a lot of content on his channel, but I mainly watched in one listserv, which is the main one I'm going to be discussing with you today. All right, so we got some poems of the week. This is more role play, role play, role play, role play, role play. We got Brandon Sanderson. So these are the kinds of sci-fi or fantasy that he doesn't mainly read. These sort of more popular, more recent series. There's the David Gemmell where you'll find the Legend review that I recommend you read. He's got also some videos here about Lewis McMaster Bujold, Terry Pratchett. Here's some more. These classic reading rooms are fun. These are, I believe they're called, what do they call those when you're all live together? Anyway, he's done 3 of those where he sort of reads to y'all. He's got some Ray Bradbury. He's got 6 reviews of him. I did some historical fiction as well. There's some more. Right. He doesn't do young adult, but he did do a couple little bits of graphic novels, mainly the Franco-Belgian ones. You can think of Tintin is probably the most famous. One that I recommend you watching here is about one called Axis, who's he's not Asterix, he's a different Gaul. That was a fun one that I watched. There's a few more D&D. He does a lot of amazing. I've watched most of his Tolkien stuff. Really interesting deep dives into Tolkien. Silmarillion, even more obscure stuff. Okay, Wolf. He's got Wolf here. Pandora. I haven't looked at the television thing he did. Here's your Silmarillion. You got 13 videos on that. There's more D&D stuff. Here's more Silmarillion. Oh, he did a buddy read. More D&D. He's got the Discworld, of course, Pratchett, D&D. He's got Gene Wolfe, 19 videos on him, 20 more videos of Tolkien trivia. So here are the graphic novels are mainly the Franco-Belgian ones, plus 2 others of this saga, which I haven't heard of. That series is interesting. I'm not sure what that's about. I haven't checked it out too much. More D&D, RPG. And these are great. So here are sort of, you can look at sort of some of the stuff that he sees. Why you should read Dark is Rising. Why you should read the Draenei Saga. Why you should read Fafhrd Grey Mouser. Why you should read Hammers Slammers. Why you should read World 5 God Cycle. Why you should read Discworld. Why you should read Volkosigan Saga. Why you should read Mythical Wood Cycle. Why you should read Ender Quartet. Why you should read Book of the New Sun. Culture Series, Solar Cycle by Gene Wolfe, Stephen King's Stark Tower, the LA Quartet, Elro, Soldier Latro Series, Chronicles of Amber, and Sherlock Holmes. And those are all very good. He does do a few reading blogs and hauls and these propagandas, like stuff about his channel. So mainly, like 100 subscriber Q&A or 1,000 subscriber Q&A or things of that nature. Does a little nonfiction. He does some top lists, which, you guys love. And then he's got some book discussions, some ghost stories, a little more D&D. Now, this is what I'm going to cover with you today, where D&D meets fiction. So one of the great minds who's influencing our current culture that you may not have heard of, whose influence runs deeper than many of us realize, I think, is a man named Gary Gygax. Gary Gygax was the original creator of a game called Dungeons and Dragons, one of the first role-playing games in a fantasy flavor. And his game was so popular that it really influences pretty much all the video games that we've all grown up on, and even down today, the ones that kids are playing today. And those video games I am now noticing in all manner of pop culture. So just, things that used to be super geeky that no one would understand about hit points and all this kind of stuff, I hear referenced in popular series now. They've gone mainstream. So this guy, Gary Gygax, he is really the creator of D&D. Now, what's interesting is that he gave us in his Dungeon Master's Manual, which the cover you can see here didn't help with the Christian campaigns against Dungeons and Dragons, that cover. He gave us an Appendix N, in which he talks about his sources, what fantasy series and authors he had read that influenced Dungeons and Dragons. And so what Owen has done in these 2 playlists here is in Appendix and Chats, he talks about each of these influences, how it specifically influences Dungeons and Dragons. And then here he does a review of each of these influences. So you can see there are 18. The 19th is, the only one who's not in here is Tolkien, because of course he's got so much other Tolkien content. So here you can say so Princess of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs was an influence on Gary Gygax Dungeons and Dragons. And so here you can see he gives you his review of Princess of Mars and God of Mars. Poul Anderson, Robert Howard, L. Sprague de Camp, Jack Vance, who's that? Fritz Liebner, Lee Brackett, Zelazny, Norton, whoever that one is, Elric, that'd be more more camp. I want to say that's not right. More cock. That's right. Lovecraft. Another one. Jose Farmer does Nay. Uh, and then, yeah, we'll get to the rest in a minute. So it took me all the way back. I was afraid that would happen. Okay, so you've got all those reviews of all those books. So if you're not at all interested in Dungeons and Dragons, just read those reviews, and you will know what influenced the game that influenced our culture. But if you are all interested in role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons specifically, or any video games, if you like gaming, then you can go to these chats right here. And I won't open them up because it'll send me back again, but it's the exact same thing. It just lists those authors and their titles. But each one, you click on it and it'll tell you, and I won't take you through all of them. I'll do maybe 6 or so. It'll tell you that, like, for example, J.R.R. Tolkien, right? How did he influence Dungeons and Dragons? Well, so Dungeons and Dragons has character classes. That's sort of your job. It has character races, and it has magic items and monsters that you fight and various things of that nature. So Tolkien gave Gygax hobbits, invisibility rings, wizards, things of that nature. You've got Andre Norton in Owen's discussion of Andre Norton. You can find out the importance of the different cultures in Andre Norton, how that later on influenced. I found that Owen is particularly strong on influences. It's another great thing that he does in his analysis. That, book titles, they might give you, oh, this book is giving me the vibes of so-and-so. But what Owen will do is, first he gives you real analysis of each book. That means the strengths and the weaknesses, and, gives reasons. But then what he also does is he'll connect the literature up with other literature in meaningful ways. So he says, like, this play of culture that Andre Norton does so well, you can see popping up in the Covenant books. But in that case, the culture, each culture point, which is presented in Norton more sort of for its own sake or for, background, it pays off in plot points more often with Covenant. So meaningful comparisons of that nature. So you got the Fritz Liebner, Pfaffer, and Gray Mauser. So this is giving the thief class, obviously the rogue, planar portals. There's different planes in D&D. So from Tales of Dying Earth, Jack Vance gets some elements of the magic system in Dungeons and Dragons. L. Sprague de Camp, he talks about this humor coming from, like, the incomplete enchanter, for example, influencing Pratchett. Although with Pratchett, he argues there's a more there's the humor, but there's more emotional content as well, which leads to more stakes. So it's not just humor sort of letting you off the hook. Okay, who else have we got here? Michael Moorcock. So here is giving us magic items, this sort of Baroque atmosphere, environment stuff, planar travel, the strange elves as opposed to these sort of high elves of Tolkien. You've got leads to the Drow in D&D, which is these evil elves. You can see that in E.A. Salvatore, which is a series of books written based on Dungeons and Dragons, so not influences of, but influenced by, called the Forgotten Realms series. And R.A. Salvatore has a Drow character, Drist, in there. You've got Lovecraft, Cthulhu mythos, right? And some of these mix up, right? Like you'll get a Lovecraftian element, like Star gods jumping into, Conan or whatever. So Lovecraft's giving, the weird creatures, the horrors that were not meant to be known, ghouls and Koatoa and mind flayers. You got Poole Anderson giving these. You didn't know how hip D&D was. They knew that race was a spectrum before anyone else. You've got this half elf, half troll. You got this new Norse thing coming from Poole Anderson. Clerics and paladins come in from this sort of like Christianity coming in, replacing paganism. You've got the bestiary. You've got snow maidens and white worms and the deities and demigods. Also, the alignment system. So this is very interesting. I don't know if you know this. In Dungeons and Dragons, the alignment system is very interesting because there's not just two. It's not just a duality from good to evil. Neutral is very important. So the gray Mauser, right? In Fritz Lieber, this is a morally gray guy, right? Um, so are these heroes in fantasy? They're not always good heroes. They can be neutral. They could even be evil. But there's another uh, access to alignment in Dungeons and Dragons, which is chaos to law. So you could be lawful, neutral, chaotic. You could be good, neutral, evil. So you could be lawful, good. You could be chaotic, evil. Things of that nature. Very interesting element of Dungeons and Dragons. I always thought, oh, there we went again. We lost our whatchamacallit. Bring you back. Okay, Owen, there you are. Take you back down to the created playlists. Right. So where were we? I'll just do a couple more. Lord Dunsnay's Elflin's Daughter. This is a big influence on Gaiman, Stardust. You got Jose Farmer. Not sure, I can't remember that one. Of course, Robert E. Howard, right? You got Conan, the Barbarian. This is not your Arnie's Conan, the yes, I want to destroy everyone and laugh as their maidens weep. He starts as a street thief, ends up a king. It's this whole civil, march of civilization through decadence back to barbarism and into savagery, and then barbarism is an intermediate step. So barbarian in that sense, a very interesting concept. And Owen does discuss the sort of racial implications of some of that, but and other things he gets from that: factions, Eldrick, item quests. Let's see, anything else I want to discuss? Well, there's a few of them anyway to give you just a taste of the way these different series were used to influence this amazing game. I found it really, really fascinating. I also do happen to be a Dungeons and Dragons lover, and I have reviewed. I have also watched a bunch of these videos that he does where he reviews what's called modules. So what a module would be is you've got your rule system of Dungeons and Dragons, but then they'll write adventures for you, and it'll give a world, and it'll give the creatures and quests and things that are going on in that world, and then you can go play that with your friends. So you can see, and there are different sets of them. You probably saw the names of some of them as we scrolled through them. Spelljammers was one, and what were some of the others? I think there was a Dragonlance campaign for a while. So those are really neat. So I've watched his reviews of various modules as well. And he also reviews other game systems and the systems in general. And those are also very, very good. So here you go. So he's got spoiler-free reviews, 153 reviews on there. He's got 11 classics as well, this sort of old school classics. Cranford, for example. I watched his review of Italo Calvino's Invisible Cities. I thought it was excellent. He's got 48 of science fiction. I think he probably has more than that, but in that anyway. And then we're the RPGs, back to that. Brandon Sanderson, he even did. And that's it. Okay, so that is Owen Edwards. Check him out. He is amazing. And very personable. His style I would call cozy. Having done in my first video sort of an outrageous visual, musical collage style of review. Owen is a very much talk to the camera in his sweaters and in his green chair. He's very soft spoken, which I definitely appreciate. He doesn't do that loud, overly enthusiastic YouTube voice that we're supposedly supposed to enjoy. So check him out. He's great.